Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Climbing Sycamores podcast, where we look at today's topics to get a better view of Christianity. I'm Annie Beege, and I'm joined by my friends Ben Sadler and Matt Harbach. Hey, welcome.
Hey, everybody. Well, one thing that I've been interested in a lot lately, I'm writing a paper on this for school, and I'm also just thinking about a lot, is this idea of calling. And do you have a job or do you have a calling? And some of the research I was reading was like, if you have a calling, you'd expect this. You're way more productive at your job. You'll take risks. You'll work extra hours. You'll be there for there's longevity in the job. If you just have a job, you treat it as a means to an end, where you won't give it your best. You're just going in for the paycheck. And it was interesting that this research uses the word calling. It's a very Christian idea, but it's in these secular studies because, like, if you have a calling, who's calling you? This idea that there is somebody who's actually calling you, and it made me think of some stories in the Bible where you have God calling Abraham, the first Hebrew, to leave his country and to start things over, and he was going to bless them, and he's going to bless all nations through Abraham. So he had to leave everything, go to a new place. Or calling of Moses in the burning bush to go back to the place where he was exiled from and lead the nation of Israel out of Egypt, and the calling of all the different callings in the book of Judges where God's calling Gideon to lead the people, and then the calling of David to be the second king, and Jeremiah to be this prophet who's going to speak against people, and Jesus calling the disciples. Like he went along the shore and called Peter and John and those disciples. So
that was really obvious.
Right. So these are direct calls, like, hey, this is direct. And then the one I'm preaching on this week is Esther, where the book is interesting because it never mentions God in the whole book, and it's in the Bible. So that's a whole nother thing to talk about. But Esther she's in the Persian Empire, and she wins this beauty pageant, and she's now the queen of Persia, and her people, the Jewish people, are about to be exterminated because of this wicked Haman, and her relative Mordecai kind of goads Esther to say something to the king, and he says, maybe perhaps you've been put in this place of authority for just the time as this, so perceiving your call, being aware that you're called to this position for a purpose. So so I just have a couple questions. We'll see where you guys want to go with this, but what's the difference for you guys between a job and a calling? Maybe how can you detect a call or discover your calling? How do you know if you're in like a preparation stage for a calling, like Moses in the wilderness for 40 years or in Egypt 40 years, wilderness 40 years? Those are all preparational phases. So, to recognize that, all right, maybe I'm not in my calling now, but God is using these experiences for something in the future. Or, when is it good to leave a job or a calling to pursue something new? Or do you have to leave your job, or can you kind of manufacture your job into a calling? So I don't know.
Oof,
any of those? Yeah. Any of those you're interested in? What do you guys think?
I guess one of the first things I thought about was just, I think sometimes a job can be a calling and a calling job in that, like if you need to work to take care of your family, to me, it's not so much about the job as it is about this is what I'm doing, even though it might not be fulfilling.
Okay.
As my bigger call is to take care of my family or my whomever.
Yep.
So it might not be the job itself.
Yeah.
But the bigger purpose
is that sustainable?
I mean, if you're not miserable, if you're not miserable and
right.
if you're content, if you're not happy or you're really, really unfulfilled.
Right.
What do you mean by sustainable?
Can you just go to work for your family? Can it be a...
You won't be happy about it, but you can. I know people that have worked 40, 50 years at jobs they don't like.
Right. Mm-hmm. Is that good?
That was what I did.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing I'm kind of... And I don't think you have to necessarily like it. There's lots of parts of all of our jobs that, or any job that a person might not like, or that are hard, or it's hard on your body or hard on you, whatever, stressful. But I think once it becomes a calling is if you believe that your work matters, you believe that God has put you there to do something that matters. I think, we just spend so much time of our life doing a job that if it's just for something else, I don't know if that. I just would challenge somebody to say, well, there might be something else out there, or can you manufacture parts of your job so they feel more desirable, they're more in line with who you are. I feel like in quite a few jobs now, there's more flexibility. I mean, if your job is really rigid, that you do this and this is what you have to do, and there's no room for changing things. But I think in most jobs, you can kind of talk to the supervisor, the boss, like, what if I brought this into it to maybe fit more of your skill set? I'm going to be more, I feel like this is what I can do. I can make a better contribution. I don't know. So I don't know. I guess that's the part I'm trying to challenging. Like, and if that's how you feel, like I'm just doing this just to get a paycheck for my family. I mean, that, sometimes I guess you have to do that, right? Like, but I just wonder if that's what God wants us to do for our whole life.
But wouldn't you say there's value in pretty much every job?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's about finding something that you're good at.
Right.
Something that you can at least tolerate. I mean, factory work, while it might be mundane, is, depending on what you do, is important work.
Exactly.
Like, who's going to collect the trash?
Right.
Like, this is important work. Like,
right.
So if you can understand, I think, how your role really impacts the bigger picture, then you, and somebody can cast that vision for you and tell you, like, this is why your job is important.
Right.
That might be able to make it a little more sustainable.
I think any job can be a calling. I think all those different things that you mentioned, whether, working in different factory, garbage, whatever it is, like, yes, they're all meaningful. I just don't know if they're meaningful or they fit everyone. And if you're forcing yourself in, I think there are some people like, I love this. I love what I'm doing. I clean the whole, I'm good at all that kind of thing. Right. And I guess I'm just challenging the idea that I just have to show up and this idea of, like, belief that maybe God is guiding me. He's guided some of these experiences that I've had so that I can work with these groups of people. And maybe it's not the job itself, but I'm the person called to this, factory, this waste management, this whatever it is, because I work really well with these people. These people around me need me, and I'm the right fit to work with them. I just would want people to see meaning in their work. And you're right, every job has meaning, but I don't think it's going to be meaningful for everybody.
So it's not right. So it's finding the right balance of person to job.
Right.
If every job has meaning and every person has a skill set, it's just finding the match.
Yes. And I think believing that God is guiding your life, that these aren't just mere coincidences, that I showed up here, that I'm at this place, that God is involved in this. And I think when you believe that God is involved in it, I think you can endure hard things at that job. So when do you stick it out, and when should a person say, my calling is somewhere else?
I think that's a great question.
What do you think?
Because I've talked to my friends before, and like, if they've told me that they don't like their work, for example, my question is always, when is it going to get better?
And what are you going to do about it?
Like, just picture yourself in 6 months. You still work here. Is it better or worse? Mm-hmm. You know what the job is. Like, you've been here for a year. There's no surprises. Yeah. It's not going to be like you all of a sudden just discover some newfound love for this thing that you're doing. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And the other thing is, I guess when I worked jobs that were not really all that fun, you go to work and you're like, all right, I'm going to make the best of this. I can at least have a good attitude.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I have work, for example,
Right.
and I'll just live in the moment. You know, I'm
Right.
not going to just be angry that I'm here. And that doesn't really work very well,
Yeah.
because you just go there and you're like, I am stuck here doing this thing I don't like.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to have a good attitude about it, but honestly, it just ticks me off.
Yeah.
And so I don't, boy, it's like, it really seems to me two things are true. Like I like to believe that people will just, if you are really unhappy with where you are, just get up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's really hard for people to do. And I think it's really hard for people to just be like, oh, well, you know, just change your attitude about it. And if you just have a positive attitude, like it'll be so much better for you, which is true, but no one can do that.
I wouldn't say get up and leave. Are you jumping to something? Like, is there another calling that is set up? I back to the example of Moses, like he's spending 40 years in the wilderness, and this isn't what he was thinking. He spent the first 40 years in Egypt, and he was in place of leadership, and yet God was preparing him for something else. I do wonder if you could. The study that I read talked about how people's job satisfaction changed, and they were able to go from perceiving a calling to living a calling when they were able to bring in some aspects of their own personality or their own gifts. Now that doesn't work for all places, but I think people should try that. Like you're doing this job, but you really like writing. Well, can you bring writing into this job? Or you really like meeting with people, and yet your work is it doesn't have any interaction with other people. Can you bring more people into your position? And I think that's one of the nice things about working here and being a pastor too, is there's a lot of flexibility that we have room to kind of say, all right, here's my area of ministry. I'm going to try to manufacture it a way that fits me and fulfills the mission.
I don't think most people have that option.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Right.
thinking about like if you actually do just work like in a warehouse, and it's like you work, you're unloading trucks. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's like, what can you do? It's not like you can be like, hey, I want to be the guy
Right.
that uses the box cutter instead of
or
the
I
guy
want my
that
friend
lifts.
to come help me unload. Yeah, like
I think people who are in jobs where your role is very strictly defined and you have almost no creativity, that's where people really get stuck, because it's like, I mean, I've had a job like that, and it's hard to leave, you know, because you feel stuck there and you can't picture yourself with the freedom to do anything better.
Yeah.
So you just have this like cloud around you. Like, I'm stuck and I'm not worth trying anything else because this is what I'm doing now. So what makes me think I could just jump to something else? It's confusing. I don't know.
One of my favorite jobs of all time was window cleaning, and there wasn't a lot of creativity necessarily with it, but I did find a lot of satisfaction and a good job doing it well and doing it efficiently and making sure the customer was happy with the work that you did. Mm-hmm. So I do think there are aspects that you can bring into even some of those warehouse jobs. And, you know, I know some people hated working for the UPS. Some people loved it, loved going new places every day and doing their route every day and trying to hit their numbers every day, and saw that they were offering a service, that they were bringing these packages to people, you know. So I there is some room, but yeah, you're right that there are some positions that don't have that. I do think this is, again, bringing your faith in it. God, you gave me all these experiences through my life, the challenges that I faced. Now, how can I use that in service to others? And yeah, again, going with the Moses idea of, you know, I have all these experiences, and Moses didn't believe that God could use him anymore. And God is saying, I want to use all these things that have happened in your life, all these failures and all these mistakes and all these things, and that's actually part of your calling. And I think once people can see that, it can energize them, that they're part of a bigger story. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel it is very important. How do you know that your job is a calling, though? I guess that would be.
Yeah, well, when you say calling, like if you think your job is a call, if you say it's a calling versus rather just a job, that's really just all in the attitude of the employee, right?
I
mean,
think
that's
it's a
what
perspective.
makes it a calling.
Right.
Is if you say, I really feel like I should be here. I love the work I do.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a calling because of how you feel about it, right?
How many people actually feel that way, though? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think a lot do.
I think certainly a minority of people do.
I feel that way, but I also, I
Don't
think,
always feel that way.
Right,
Like,
no, but I just think about other people,
Yeah.
People that I know, and, it's just like,
I think very, very few people actually would like end up in a career that they love. I think very few people get that opportunity.
And I guess it's not always, for me, again, it's not always about loving it or being easy or not having hard days, but for me, it's about meaningful. I do think you talk to some teachers and they're like, it's hard and sometimes really hard dealing with parents, but I'm helping these kids. I have these precious kids that I have to take care of, and I get to see them grow, and I love seeing the light bulb go on, and that feels like a calling. I think it becomes a calling when you believe that God designed you for it. And that He's not only designed your skills, but also designed your life to put you there. I think that's what leads it to be more of a calling. And I think that's important because I think that does help you get through some of the days where you're like, this is hard. I don't want to do this anymore. Well, is this really how you feel all the time? Or is this just it's been a bad day? Because we're all going to have those. And I think if you have a sense that, with Moses, he hated it after he's leading the nation of Israel. Like all they do is grumble. All they do is complain. All they do is, Pharaoh's not listening to him. The people are not listening to him. He goes up on the mountain to get the 10 Commandments and they're already worshiping golden calf. His life stunk. And yet he was the right guy for that job because of his experience, and he had a meaningful job. So I think that's where that. So I don't know. I think there are quite a few people. I remember talking to a police officer, and he was telling me that he had just arrested a pedophile, and I thought, man, that's got to be so hard. It's got, how can you do that? How can you do that work? And he's like, tell you the truth, it's very meaningful. That guy's off the street now. Mm-hmm. And so he looked at, one person could look at that and think, what an awful job. How could anyone do that? And the other person looks at it saying, I rescued some kids by doing that. So it is a matter of perception.
Yeah.
And I guess I would just hope that maybe this podcast could lead people to look at their job from a different perspective. And if they can't see it from that perspective, that there isn't God's hand in all that, maybe to be open on how God's guiding them in the next phase of their life. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. See you guys.
Nice.
No one here at this table should listen to
goodness.
You're out.
So I guess the question is like, I feel like people get into positions where they just feel stuck. And I have friends, I know people who, well, like I'll talk to them and they'll complain about their job to me. And after a while they will stop complaining because they know every time they complain to me, I'm just going to say, well, what are you going to do? You're going to leave?
Right.
Why are they stuck? Is it financial? Is it?
I don't think it is. I think for whatever reason, people are terrified to try something new. Mm-hmm. Like you are stuck in the job, you go there, you hate it, and you want to leave the whole time. And then as soon as you're done with work, you're just like, like that was bad. But like entertaining the thought of trying something new is even scarier somehow. Yeah. And I don't understand that intellectually, but I have definitely experienced that.
Well, if it's bad enough, you're going to leave, right? Like if it's that bad.
Right, but even if it's just kind of bad, there is something bad. Like what I think is like, okay, you tried something for a year, you learned how to do that job. You don't know how to do it. Just try something else anyway.
Yeah.
But I have been in that position and I did not do that because it's like, hey, at least I know what to expect here. I know it's comfortable even though it sucks.
Oh, that's having it suck would be not comfortable. I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
the discomfort of it sucking so bad would be just
Yeah.
enough to go elsewhere.
But and again, it doesn't totally make sense, but I know lots of people like this. I think especially like young people when they get like their first job or something like that, and they're just like, I don't know what else is out there.
Yeah.
At least I can do this, and no faith in their abilities.
Right. I've seen that no faith in their abilities. I've also seen like parents who say, this job pays well, you should do that. And they go to school and they hate doing this type of work and they're not designed for it, but they make a good income and they put in all this time and their parents said they had to do that or they should do that. And you do have to factor in, can you sustain a family on the work that you're going to do? I mean, is this a job that allows you to be able to live? But I think the next question is really like, again, are you designed for this? Because somebody is designed for that job, and it might not be you. And if it doesn't match your experience and your ability, like I do think Strength Finder is a good place to start with some of that stuff. There are career assessments, personality assessments. Those things can really help. And then don't apologize for how you're wired, because once you kind of fit in that, it doesn't mean the job's going to be necessarily easy, but it's going to be meaningful, I think. And I remember I worked for State Farm for a little while in high school, and that was, I really liked working for the guy. But making cold calls, some people love it.
Absolutely not.
That some people were okay with it, and that was just really, really challenging.
So your favorite was window washing.
I loved it.
And what's your favorite job that you had?
Oh, this one.
Well, that's good to know.
By far. I mean,
Yeah.
and I like teaching too. I like both the jobs I have right now, but I mean, a job that I got like when I was like in college, like a summer job, like I've worked in a warehouse before. And It was like, it takes you like 2 days of working and be like, I'm not really designed for like lifting.
Not with your back.
And bending, throwing, running, moving, anything like that.
How about you?
I don't know. I think I've liked almost all of the jobs that I've had, mostly. And more so, the problems that I've had have come down to like the people, or like for me, when I've known like it's kind of time to leave somewhere is like when I just am feeling really frustrated because it's stagnant, or because there's a policy change, or the people are starting to be weird, or and so I think for me it's always kind of been, I can think of one job that I absolutely detested, and it was working at the Warner Brothers store when I was a teenager, and it was so boring. It was just the most boring job ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cannot do this.
Right.
I can't do this. So I think in general, I've enjoyed most of the jobs that I've had.
Right.
But for me, I know it's time to leave when, I just start being really frustrated and am having a hard time dealing with the people that I'm around, or...
I just don't enjoy work all that much.
Yeah, but this really isn't work. I mean, think about what we're doing.
Yeah, I know. But I guess I've made the most of maybe a job or two that I've had. It was like, oh, that wasn't, in hindsight, it's easier to say it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like my problem always was like, I never liked the way things are run, and there's no room to like be creative. It's just like follow these instructions. No, I hate following instructions. I hate when people tell me what to do.
As I think about you guys, you just seem designed for. I look at you and I see you guys called to these places because, just the work that you do, Annie, being able to connect with people who come from different backgrounds and connect with anybody. And then to do that through music, I just think, and then connecting with your team. And then Matt, to be dressed in all black and be in the background and make videos well and continuing to pursue that excellence. Like, I don't know, you guys are called to this. And I didn't, the thing that's kind of cool is I think Bill is really good about Pastor Bill about he's got this like intuition as to what our church needs
Yes.
and who
Yes.
needs to be here and what needs to happen. And because your position, I wasn't thinking about that. I had no idea. I knew a church that had a position like yours, or I was like, I don't know, is he going to have enough to do? And now like you don't have enough hours in the day. So it's been kind of cool to see. And then I see like, all right, that's God working in the background, putting people exactly where they need. And I don't think it has to just be us. I think this can be how God works.
I think it's fascinating now. I look at other churches roughly our size, and they don't have someone in our positions, like Annie and I's positions. There's just like a volunteer that runs things.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you guys do this? How are you even getting along? You know,
It's tough. Yeah.
Do you think so sometimes I think about how I ended up here and how I would not be able to do the job that I'm currently doing here at Victory without having had the experience with music outside of church. So like it's kind of because of that
Right.
I was able to do this.
Right.
And then in turn, it was like, oh, I better learn how to play the guitar. So because I and I better learn how to do these things, and I'm not great, but like it's because of the things that I've learned here that I'm able then kind of to take back out there.
Yeah.
And like it's just kind of this zigzag of like skills
Exactly.
building and people building and relationship building and just back and forth, and it just kind of just up the channel, like
yeah.
Yeah. And this job wouldn't have been good, like right out of high school. Hey, do you want to,
no,
exactly.
No, because I personally would not have known what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one thing that I've been thinking about that's cool, a little bit cool around here, is like our departments, so to speak, are a little bit loose. And one thing I've kind of been thinking about just in talking to some friends, and if they are not happy where they are or something, is like, instead of thinking about what you're trained to do, just try to go by what is your temperament? Like, what are you going to be naturally good at? Because you'll figure it out. You can always learn whatever you need to learn. But like, just because
In
you're
choosing a job or how they do their job.
in choosing a job, I think like just because you went to school and learned something with this degree, like if you don't have the temperament for that job, like even if
Whether
you
it's
haven't
patience, right? Or like
Right.
team, we want to work with a team, or are you more a solitary type of
Exactly.
worker? Like what do you, yeah, right.
like just try to like get your foot in the door in somewhere that's going to work more with your personality, because you'll automatically be good at that.
Yeah, and the skills can come later.
Back to how you were talking, Annie, about how you got here. Like, I think that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is this idea, like, I think that leads to worship, where you kind of look back and you think, wow, God, you
You can kind of see it
Yeah.
a little bit.
only looking back, right?
Yeah.
But you can't see it in the moment. And I think that can give encouragement to maybe somebody listening too, is like, I don't see how God is in this. I feel stuck. Well, maybe this is a preparation stage. Like, maybe this isn't your forever job.
They call them seasons.
There you go.
I'm gonna
That's
season.
church, Ben.
I'm gonna
This is church.
season.
Seasons.
That's right. That's right.
A season of waiting, or a season of child rearing, or a season, right? Like
Yeah,
where like some of these
exactly.
things, they come and they.
And you're going to use, this is not going to be wasted.
Right.
What you're going through is not going to be wasted. And, and I think that will, lead to worship. So that can give some encouragement. And then once you are in that calling, to, lean into your experience, like lean into the things that the challenges you faced in the past and the pain you faced, because you are there for a reason, and those things you experienced them for a reason. So lean into them, use them, don't let them be wasted. And I don't know. I think that just, again, makes for a more meaningful life and gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning, which can be hard. Yeah.
I think that about relationships too, kind of switching topic, but like, have you ever heard that saying? It's like, some people will come into your life for a lifetime, and some people will come in for a moment. And like, I can't think of the exact,
I know what you mean.
but I think that way about people too. It's like,
Right.
sometimes you just have touch and go moments with people. Like literally that's it.
Right.
Sometimes people are there for a season,
Season
and
it.
sometimes a season, and sometimes people are there for the rest of your life. And like,
Right.
I think it's just, at least for me, it's just like that.
Yeah.
Just all those varying, and that to me is meaningful. And I think that's kind of God driven as well. Like sometimes you're there for somebody in the right time, or they're there for you in the right time, and then maybe it just kind of fizzles and that's just it, know?
And that's okay.
It's human capital. It's great.
It's a great motivator. Like, it's a great reminder to like try to be kind and helpful at all times.
Because you just don't know.
You don't know. But like, trying to go into a situation like, how can I help? Because that person, you may never see him again. And it's like, well, the last thing I said to you was screw you. That wasn't really smart.
Well, I'm in trouble. Sorry, everyone. Sorry in advance. I don't know.
But they're a better driver now.
Yeah, that's right. Just trying to educate some people. That's all. That's all.
Yeah, that's important. You don't realize it. You might have said something. That happens all the time where I have no idea I said that in a sermon. They're like, remember when you did that? No, nope. I don't remember anything I said. But it meant something. They were ready to hear it. Again, that's another, I think, a calling, a God thing. God's using you. He's working through you. And can't believe it that God would use us. That good? Figured it out? All right.
See ya. If you'd like to get a hold of us here at the Climbing Sycamores podcast, feel free to email bsadler@victoryofthelamb.com. bsadler@victoryofthelamb.com. If you like today's intro music, it's been brought to you by Andrew Lynch's song, My Name. Hello.